Empires never fall overnight. They rot from within, one coin at a time. Right now, somewhere in a vault beneath Manhattan, trillions of dollars sit printed on paper, backed by nothing but belief. And belief, like empires, has an expiration date: the Roman denarius, the Spanish real, the British pound. All of them once ruled the world. All of them thought they were permanent. All of them were wrong. And now the same invisible force that buried those currencies is moving again. Slowly, silently, methodically, beneath the surface of the modern world. There's a pattern in history, a cycle that repeats with mathematical precision. First comes prosperity, then comes arrogance, then comes debt, and then comes the moment when everyone realizes at once the money in their hands is worthless. We're watching that moment approach, not in some distant future, not in theory, right now, in real time, with the world's most powerful currency, because the end of the dollar has already begun. And no one is ready for what replaces it. 1944, Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. The world lay in ruins. Europe was ash. Asia was blood. 50 million people dead. Cities reduced to rubble. And in a quiet hotel surrounded by mountains, the victors made a choice that would shape the next 80 years. They chose the dollar. Not because it was the strongest currency, but because America was the last one standing. The only major economy untouched by war. The only nation with its infrastructure intact. The only power capable of rebuilding a shattered world. From that moment on, the rules changed. Oil was priced in dollars. International trade flowed in dollars. Nations hoarded dollars like oxygen. If you wanted to buy anything on the global market, you needed dollars first. It didn't matter what your own currency was worth. The dollar became the gateway to everything. The dollar became more than money. It became power itself. The power to print wealth out of thin air. The power to impose sanctions that could cripple entire nations. The power to control the arteries of global commerce. For decades, this system worked. It created unprecedented prosperity. It stabilized markets. It gave the world a common language of value. But power has a cost. And that cost is always paid in time, in trust, in blood. Because the system was built on a promise. A promise that America would act responsibly. That it would manage the world's reserve currency with discipline. That it would limit how much it printed, how much it borrowed, how much it spent. That promise has been broken, not once, not twice, but systematically year after year, decade after decade. And now the bill is coming due? Because when a global currency collapses, it doesn't just destroy bank accounts. It rewrites borders. It topples governments. It sparks wars over resources. It changes the way civilization itself is organized. And right now, beneath the noise of the news cycle, beneath the headlines and the debates, beneath the surface of everyday life, the foundation is cracking. The cracks are small, easy to ignore, easy to dismiss as conspiracy theory or doom-mongering, but they're real. They're measurable. And they're spreading. Rome didn't fall to barbarians, it fell to inflation. For centuries, the Roman denarius was pure silver, 95% to be exact. It was the backbone of an empire that stretched from Britain to Babylon. A currency so trusted that merchants accepted it from Scotland to Syria, but expansion costs money. Wars cost money. Maintaining an empire that spans 3 continents costs an unimaginable amount of money. And when the treasury ran dry, the emperors did what every empire does when it can't afford itself. They debased the currency. Emperor Nero was the first. He reduced the silver content to 90%, just 5% less. Barely noticeable, but it set a precedent. His successors went further. 80%, 70%, 50%. By the 3rd century, the denarius was less than 5% silver. Silver coins became copper coins wrapped in a thin layer of silver. Then copper wrapped in tin. Then just copper, painted to look like something valuable. The soldiers knew. They could feel the weight difference. They could see the discoloration. The merchants knew. They started demanding more coins for the same goods. And slowly, methodically, the empire's own people stopped believing in its money. Prices skyrocketed. A pound of gold that once cost 100 denarii suddenly cost 5,000, then 50,000. Then the numbers became meaningless. By the time the barbarians arrived at the gates of Rome, the empire had already collapsed from within. Its currency was worthless, its economy was shattered. Its people had lost faith in the system. The barbarians just knocked over what was already dead. Spain did the same centuries later. When conquistadors discovered the New World, gold and silver poured into Spanish coffers. Shiploads of treasure. So much wealth it should have made Spain invincible. For a brief moment, Spain was the wealthiest, most powerful nation on earth. But wealth is not the same as prosperity. They'd printed more and more currency against the gold, spent more than they earned, and watched as prices exploded across Europe. The gold left Spain as quickly as it arrived, flowing to other nations to pay for goods Spain no longer produced itself. Within a century, Spain was bankrupt. Its empire dissolved into debt. Its golden age was over. Britain ruled the seas for 300 years. The pound sterling was the world's reserve currency. The sun never set on the British Empire. London was the financial center of the world. Until 2 world wars drained the treasury. Until the colonies demanded independence. Until America, fresh and powerful, quietly took the throne. The British pound still exists, but it's a shadow of what it was. A regional currency in a small island nation. No longer the backbone of global trade. Every empire follows the same script. Expand, borrow to fund expansion. Print money when borrowing isn't enough. Watch inflation destroy trust. Watch the currency collapse. Watch the empire follow. And the same story is being written again, only the name has changed. The same pattern. The same warning signs. The same inevitable conclusion. $35 trillion. That's how much the United States owes. Not to its people, to the world. 35 trillion, a number so large it stops meaning anything. A stack of $1,000 bills 35 million feet high. That's 6,600 miles, enough to circle the Earth's equator. Until you realize it can never be repaid. Do the math. The entire US economy produces about $27 trillion a year. The entire output of every business, every worker, every transaction in America. And the debt is larger than that. Even if America dedicated every single dollar it produced to paying off the debt, no military, no healthcare, no infrastructure, nothing, it would still take more than a year. And that's assuming the debt stopped growing, which it doesn't. It grows by about $2 trillion every year. $6,000 per second. Even as you watch this video, the debt is expanding. So what do you do when you can't repay your debt? You have 3 options. Default. Admit you can't pay, destroy your credibility forever. Austerity. Cut spending so drastically it causes economic depression and social unrest. Or option 3. Print more money. Option 3 is always the easiest. It's invisible, it's quiet. It doesn't require painful political decisions. You just create new money and pretend the problem is solved. In 2008, the Federal Reserve printed $4 trillion to stop a financial collapse. They called it quantitative easing, a sterile term for an extraordinary act, creating trillions of dollars that didn't exist before. In 2020, they printed another $5 trillion, $9 trillion created in 12 years. The money supply doubled. And every dollar printed is a promise broken. A silent theft from everyone holding the currency. Because when you increase the supply of something, its value decreases. That's not politics, that's mathematics. If there are suddenly twice as many dollars chasing the same amount of goods, each dollar is worth half as much. Your savings lose value. Your salary loses value. Everything priced in dollars becomes more expensive. Not because things got more valuable, but because the dollar got weaker. But the world is watching now. And they're not just watching, they're acting. China and Russia are trading oil in yuan. For decades, oil could only be bought in dollars. It was the foundation of dollar dominance. Now that foundation is crumbling. Saudi Arabia, America's closest Middle Eastern ally for 80 years, is accepting currencies other than the dollar for the first time since 1974. The BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, representing half the world's population and a third of global GDP, are building their own financial systems, their own payment networks, their own currencies, their own future. They're not doing this because they hate America. They're doing it because they see what we refuse to admit. The dollar is no longer inevitable. It's no longer reliable. It's no longer safe. And when a reserve currency loses trust, it doesn't fall with a bang. It doesn't collapse in a single dramatic moment that makes headlines. It falls with a whisper, slow, then sudden, then irreversible. Nation by nation, transaction by transaction, alliance by alliance, each country quietly reducing its dollar reserves. Each trade agreement that bypasses the dollar. Each central bank buying gold instead of US Treasury bonds. These aren't headlines. These are footnotes. Small stories buried in financial news that most people never see. But together, they form a pattern. A pattern that always ends the same way. It doesn't look like chaos, not at first. It looks like calm right before the wave hits. The ocean pulls back, the beach expands. People walk out further than they've ever been able to walk before, and then they see it. The wall of water on the horizon. By then, it's too late to run. So what comes next? When the dollar loses its throne, what takes its place? The first candidate is the oldest, gold. The metal that has represented wealth for 5,000 years. The one asset that has survived every empire, every currency collapse, every economic crisis in human history. Nations are stockpiling it again. China has increased its gold reserves by 70% in the last decade. Russia has tripled its holdings. India, Turkey, Poland, even small nations are buying tons every month. Not because they're nostalgic for the gold standard. Because they know a truth as old as civilization itself. When paper burns, metal endures. Gold can't be printed. Can't be created by central banks. Can't be debased by politicians. Its supply is limited by physics and geology. That makes it the ultimate hedge against monetary collapse. But gold has limitations. It's heavy, hard to transport, difficult to divide. You can't buy groceries with gold coins. Which brings us to the second candidate, digital currencies. Not Bitcoin. Not the cryptocurrencies you hear about on social media. The kind governments are building in secret. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, programmable money. Money that exists only as code. Money that can be tracked with perfect precision. Every transaction recorded. Every purchase monitored. Money that can be controlled. Turned on, turned off. Made to expire if not spent quickly enough. China is already using it. The digital yuan is operational in major cities. Millions of people using digital wallets controlled directly by the People's Bank of China. Europe is designing its digital euro. Expected to launch within 2 years. And America is watching. Researching, testing. Wondering if freedom and currency can still coexist in a world of total financial surveillance. These digital currencies will be faster than cash, more efficient than credit cards, and more powerful than any financial system in history. But power in whose hands? The third possibility is the most chaotic, a world where no single currency dominates. A multipolar monetary system, where trade happens in blocks. Asia with Asia, Europe with Europe, Africa with Africa. Where power shifts from Washington to Beijing, from Brussels to Mumbai, from dollars to data. From a single global empire to competing regional kingdoms. This is already beginning. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization covers 60% of Eurasia. The African Continental Free Trade Area unites 54 African nations. ASEAN coordinates 10 Southeast Asian economies. Each bloc building its own financial infrastructure. Its own currency mechanisms. Its own vision of economic order. It won't happen overnight. These transitions never do. It took 30 years for the dollar to fully replace the pound as the world's reserve currency. This transition will take time too. But it's already happening. The infrastructure is being built. The alliances are forming. The agreements are being signed. The old order is being quietly, carefully dismantled, while most people scroll, shop, and sleep. This isn't conspiracy. This is history, playing out in real time, one policy shift at a time. One trade agreement at a time. One central bank decision at a time. And when the transition is complete, when the new system has fully replaced the old, the world will wake up and ask, when did everything change? The answer? Right now, in these years, in these moments, while we were all too distracted to notice. There's an old saying, origin unknown, but true across millennia. Gold is the money of kings. Silver is the money of gentlemen. Barter is the money of peasants. And debt is the money of slaves. The dollar, as it exists today, is built on debt. 35 trillion in government debt. Trillions more in corporate debt, household debt, student debt. A tower of obligations that can never be fulfilled. And debt, like belief, eventually runs out. Empires rise. Empires fall. And between those two moments, there's always a currency that dies, quietly, invisibly, until suddenly everyone notices at once. When that happens, everything changes. Not just economics, everything. The way nations interact, the way power is distributed, the way ordinary people live their daily lives. When money dies, history starts over. New powers rise from the ashes of the old. New systems form to replace what collapsed. New rules are written by whoever holds power when the dust settles. And the people who saw it coming, who understood the patterns, who studied the history, who prepared for the transition, they're the ones who survive, who thrive, who shape what comes next. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. About seeing the patterns that most people miss because they're too close to the present moment. If this made you see the bigger picture, if this changed how you understand the world we're living in, subscribe. Because the next chapter of history is already being written. The characters are already on stage. The plot is already in motion, and most people won't realize it until it's too late. Until the currency in their wallet is worth less than the paper it's printed on. Until the system they trusted has already transformed into something unrecognizable. Don't be one of them.